So I want you to picture a ledger, just a totally standard boring spreadsheet. It's 2024, and it's from a massive legal audit of the Michael Jackson estate.
Right.
You've got rows and rows of copyrights, real estate, music royalties, all the, standard corporate stuff. But then the auditors, they hit a line item that just stops them cold.
And this item, it referenced a specific location on the Neverland Ranch property, a place that hadn't been touched or maintained or even opened in, over a decade?
Exactly. And, when we usually talk about Neverland, we're talking about all the noise.
Yeah, the Ferris wheel, the zoo animals, the media circus, all of it.
But this deep dive, it's different. We're actually looking at the silence he left behind, because this entire 2,700-acre property had pretty much become a ghost town, except for this one single fortified structure.
The garage.
The garage. And I want to be really clear for everyone listening right from the start. We are not doing an episode of Top Gear here. Yeah. We're not just going to rattle off horsepower stats and admire the leather.
No, not at all. That would be, I think, missing the point completely.
We're looking at this garage as a kind of psychological case study.
Yeah.
Because when the estate finally ordered that door opened in 2024, they didn't just find a bunch of expensive metal.
No, they found a timeline. A physical story of a man just retreating from the world layer by layer. It's a perfect time capsule.
And the actual event of opening the garage, I mean, that's a story in itself. The source material really digs into how hard this was.
Oh, yeah. You don't just walk up to a billionaire's private vault and, punch in a code.
Right. The notes say the electronic keypads were totally dead, which I guess that makes sense. Nobody had maintained the power grid for that specific building since around 2009.
But it wasn't just a dead battery problem.
No.
It was the physical security. The auditors, they first brought in standard locksmiths who basically took one look at the door and said, you need a different kind of professional.
A different kind of professional.
Yeah, the bolts holding the main door shut were a custom alloy, a blend of titanium and steel.
That feels like overkill for a garage.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to keep thieves out, but that sounds like you're trying to keep an army out.
For a normal collector, absolutely overkill. But for a vault holding the personal history of maybe the most famous and certainly one of the most paranoid men on Earth, it kind of tracks.
So what did they do?
They had to bring in industrial cutting tools. We're talking sparks flying, grinding metal, technicians sweating in the heat. It took hours just to breach the door.
When that door finally groans open, the description is just visceral. It's not the smell of money or luxury.
No, it's the smell of stagnation. Old oil, unconditioned leather, stale air. It was total darkness until they brought in floodlights. And the very first thing the light hits through a decade of dust is this faded gold sign on the wall.
Drive your dream.
Drive your dreams, yeah.
Yeah, the irony is just, it's thick, considering what they were about to find. So let's walk in. The generators power out the lights, the dust is everywhere, but underneath it all, the cars are pristine. Tires are still inflated. It's like 2009 was frozen in amber. What's the first thing that jumps out from the early era of this collection?
It has to be the 1985 Rolls-Royce Corniche. It's right there at the front.
Okay, paint the picture for us.
It's turquoise with a bright white leather interior.
Turquoise, that's loud.
It is loud. It screams new money. It screams the thriller era. This is the car of a guy who just bought the world and wants everyone to know it. But here's the detail that I think is so crucial. Despite how flashy it was, he didn't actually drive it to show off.
This is the listening booth theory, right? I've heard about this.
It's more than a theory. It's backed up by staff accounts and confirmed by what they found inside. Jackson was just obsessed with sonic perfection. He found that the insulation in the Rolls, combined with its sound system, was actually a better listening environment than some of his studio monitors.
So you're telling me the biggest pop star in the world would be sitting in a turquoise Rolls-Royce parked in a dark garage, listening to a snare drum on a track for 3 hours.
Precisely. It was his workspace. And they found physical evidence of this right inside the car. There was a cassette tape partially ejected from the deck.
Labeled off the wall.
Yep. But it was paused halfway through. She's out of my life.
Wow. Let's just pause there for a second. That is a heavy detail. She's out of my life is not a dance track.
Not at all.
It's a song about total emotional devastation. And this car is frozen in time with that specific track queued up.
It just frames the car as a sanctuary. It wasn't a status symbol in that moment. It was an emotional support vehicle. He went there to feel something, to process something alone. It really changes how you look at the chrome and the turquoise paint.
It's not flash, it's a shell.
A shell where he could be vulnerable, yeah.
And speaking of shells, there's also the 1954 Cadillac Fleetwood and the Silver Cloud Rolls-Royce in this same area. These feel different. Less pop star.
More statesman.
Yeah.
That's his regal phase. This is late 80s, early 90s. He's moving from being just a singer to being a global figure. The Fleetwood is what presidents drive. The Silver Cloud, I think only about 500 were ever made. That's what royalty drives.
He was building a mythology.
He was trying to legitimize himself with these cars, projecting dignity, perfectionism. But, and this is the big pivot in our deep dive, that desire to be seen as regal. It shifts very, very drastically as we move deeper into the garage.
The whole narrative of the collection changes.
It turns dark. We move from the era of I want to be seen to the era of I must not be reached.
The armor era.
Exactly. And the 1985 Mercedes-Benz 500 SEL is that pivot point. On the outside, it just looks like a standard high-end sedan. Sleek, black, maybe a little conservative. But when the auditors tried to open the doors, they were unnaturally heavy.
Because of the glass.
Factory-installed bulletproof windows and reinforced plating in the doors.
Now, for anyone listening who isn't a car, nut bulletproofing, a car back in the mid-'80s wasn't like it is today, right? You couldn't just order that from the dealer easily. It changes the whole vehicle.
Completely. It adds thousands of pounds. It ruins the suspension, kills the acceleration. It makes the car handle like a boat. You don't do this because it's cool. You do this because you are terrified.
And this lines up with the first round of really intense legal battles and media attacks.
It does. The car becomes a bunker. He's sacrificing the joy of driving for the necessity of survival. It's not a listening booth anymore. It's a cage.
Wow.
And that theme just escalates with the Silver Spur 2 limousine.
The white one?
Yeah, the white one. White leather, white exterior. This was known as his charity car, used for galas, public appearances.
The interior description on this one is wild. A retractable moonroof and a fiber optic star ceiling.
It created this celestial glow inside.
That sounds beautiful, but also controlling. I mean, why do you need fake stars?
That is exactly the word controlling. He's creating a synthetic reality. The outside world is paparazzi, allegations, flashing lights. Inside the Silver Spur, it's always a calm, starry night. He's curating his own atmosphere because he just can't handle the real one anymore.
And then we reach the peak of that isolation. The source material calls the crown jewel of mystery.
The Phantom 6, this thing is... It's intimidating.
Okay.
Matte black exterior, which, is a very modern trend now. But doing it back then was a deliberate choice to absorb light, not reflect it. It was anti-paparazzi camouflage.
And the windows. The report said no rear visibility.
There are no rear windows.
None. Like a panel van.
Just solid metal. You cannot see in. But here's the detail that really stopped me. He could see out. Or at least he could see something. The rear cabin had high-definition screens hooked up to external cameras.
So he's watching the world through a monitor.
Digital veils. It's the ultimate dissociation. He is physically present on the street, but he's visually separated by technology. He's watching his own life like it's a TV show. It's the absolute height of his paranoia.
That is just, it's tragic when you lay it out like that. You go from the convertible Corniche top down, listening to music, to a windowless matte black box where you watch the world on a CCTV screen.
It's the whole trajectory of his mental state right there in metal and glass. And if the garage ended there, it would just be a very, very sad story about a recluse.
But it doesn't end there.
Yeah.
And this is the part of the research that honestly made me stop and reread the page. Because tucked in a corner behind all these million-dollar armored vehicles is a van.
The beige van.
A 1993 Ford Econoline E150. This is the most generic vehicle ever made. It's what your plumber drives.
Exactly. It has zero aesthetic appeal, no chrome, just beige.
So why is it there? For the staff?
No. It was his. It was the ultimate disguise.
Invisible.
Think about it. If you are Michael Jackson in a Rolls-Royce, you cause a riot. If you are Michael Jackson in a matte black Phantom, you're a target. But in a beige Ford Econoline,
you're nobody. You just merge into traffic.
You disappear.
But the inside... It wasn't full of plumbing equipment, I'm guessing?
Oh, no. When they slid that side door open, it was like entering Narnia. Deep blue velvet on the walls, custom reclining leather captain's chairs, and the centerpiece. a fully integrated Super Nintendo Entertainment System,
No way.
a SNES, with a whole library of cartridges and custom slots and individual monitors for the seats. And to top it all off, a mirrored ceiling to make the small space feel surreal.
A Super Nintendo in the van. That is
Interesting.
bizarrely heartwarming. The king of pop is besieged by the world, and he just wants to hide in a plumber's van and play Super Mario World.
It totally humanizes him. This was his mobile imagination tank. It shows that despite all the bulletproof glass, there was still this big kid inside who just wanted to play. He wanted to escape into fantasy.
And there was something else found in the van, right? Something in the driver's seat pouch.
A notebook, a well-worn one. And it wasn't full of legal notes or financial worries. It was filled with sketches, stage designs, even drafts for a children's book he never published.
So even in his darkest times, hiding in a beige van, the creative engine was still firing on all cylinders.
He was still world building. He never stopped creating, even when he was hiding.
Which brings us to the final and maybe the most frustrating discovery in the whole garage. The unfulfilled vision.
The crates.
Right, hidden behind a motorcycle under a tarp. Black crates with the MJJ Productions logo.
These held the blueprints for something called History 2, the Resurrection Tour.
Resurrection. That is a very loaded title.
It implies he knew his career was, for all intents and purposes, dead, and that he needed to rise again. And the ambition in these plans, I mean, we are talking about stagecraft that did not exist yet.
The notes mention mechanized elevators and immersive light shows, but that sounds pretty standard for him. What was the impossible stuff?
So, in the margins, there were handwritten notes about holographics. Specifically, 3D projections that would interact with the audience way up in the nosebleed seats, not just the front row.
Okay.
He was sketching ideas for drone swarms to create lighting effects in the sky above open-air stadiums.
Wait, drone swarms in the mid to late 2000s.
Exactly. The tech just wasn't there yet. He was trying to engineer things that wouldn't really be viable for another, 15 years. He was dreaming bigger than the engineering could support.
He wanted to come back with a show that would make the world forget everything but the magic.
He was planning a spectacle that would physically envelop the entire audience. It's just such a complex picture. On one side of the garage, the windowless Phantom, the fear. On the other, the resurrection blueprints, the ambition.
And right in the middle, a beige van with a Super Nintendo. The escapism.
It's the whole paradox of his life. The desire to be the biggest star in the universe and the desperate need to be completely invisible.
So the audit is done. They've cataloged every car, every tape, every blueprint. The world knows this collection exists. The auction houses must have been just drooling.
Oh, the offers were astronomical. Museums wanted to tour the whole collection. It would have been the blockbuster exhibit of the decade. The estate said no.
To everything.
To everything. Not a single lug nut was sold.
That is rare. Usually these things are a prelude to a liquidation. Why keep it all?
It is so rare. But they decided this garage wasn't an asset. It was a monument. They cataloged everything, preserved it all, and then they resealed the door.
They welded it back shut.
Essentially, they closed that heavy door, locked the titanium bolts, and walked away.
There's something deeply respectful about that.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like they acknowledge that we, the public, have consumed enough of him.
I think so. We forced that door open to settle a ledger. We got a peek inside his brain, but by closing it, they reestablished the boundary he tried so hard to build with all that armor.
It's still a sanctuary. A tomb of what-ifs.
Drive your dreams. Just fading in the dark.
It really leaves us with a tough question for you, the listener. We live in this era where every celebrity text is leaked. Every moment is content. But if you were the executor, if you held the keys to that garage...
It's a real test, isn't it?
If you found a time capsule that a loved one or an idol had deliberately sealed away to keep private, would you have the strength to close that door again? Or would you sell the tickets?
Curiosity versus respect. It's a hard line to walk.
It certainly is. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. It's been a trip.
Fascinating stuff.
We'll catch you on the next one.